This is your market update for Monday, January 5th. All right, we're going to start with the S&P Cash Weekly chart, and we're going to talk about both sides of the market here. So the case for the bears is the fact that we have hit major extensions on this weekly chart. Okay, we met two of them, we're just a teeny bit short of that 1618 extension, along with the fact that we had timing at this last high. And we are, starting to see a little bit of a pullback from there. And we'll have to take a look at the lower time frame charts and see where they're at after today. But that is the case for the bears. Okay. Now, as far as the S&P Cash Daily, note that we are still above the 200 simple, above the 50 simple, and the 5 and 13 are still in a buy mode. So this would be a royal setup if the 513 is still in a buy mode if we hit this first area, right? 67.98 to 68.08. That's an area to watch. There's two symmetry projections along with a 618 retracement there, but that's a little bit below the market. And then, of course, there are other areas that will still be considered setups, but they may not end up being the highest probability setup. Okay, so don't really have anything that stands out until this next support here on the daily. As far as S&P futures, now I did go back to the left-hand side of the chart and took some of these prior swings and added them and found some pretty good symmetry support. So let me get these levels in there. This is 68.56. So 6856 to 6865. 6865. All right, so that's again two symmetry projections plus the actually let me get this in the right place, plus that 618 retracement. So that's a decision. Underneath that we do have 6844.75. That's not too far away from a 382 retracement. So those are some areas of support that I'll have you watch, for possible resumption of the rally. Well, we're starting to see a bounce off of this low. Let me just double check and make sure it's labeled correctly. So it looks like today's low was made at 68.6675. Okay, so that's only slightly above here. So it's absolutely close enough to have looked at a trade against this area. So here, if we continue to hold above this support, potential upside target's going to come in here at 70.28. Let's call that 50. So that's March S&P. Right now, it looks like 513 is still in a buy mode, and we're back above the 50s. So that looks decent if we can continue to hold above there. Now, the other thing that I had done, though, was I had run the timing from this last high for the next possible low. And we did get January 2nd through the 4th, but that's going to include, between today and early next week as far as the time window to anticipate a possible reversal back to the upside. As far as 120-minute chart, now, even though the daily chart looks like it could be okay, the intraday charts, well, at least this one, is still going to give us some pretty healthy sell setups. The first area, 69.11 to 16, unless you want to include this 618 retracement, then it makes it 69.19. Here, not an official setup because there's only two levels, but here this would be an official setup because it includes symmetry. It's way up here at 69.45.47. So yes, we're getting a bounce off of support, but we have to watch these areas for the next decisions. And if we fail against it, you need to get the heck out of the way, right? So that's something to watch on the 120. 30-minute chart actually did not cross back to the upside. So it looks like, maybe there was a shorter term chart that crossed, but not the 30-minute chart. NASDAQ, same thing. I did run timing from this last high for the next possible low, and it shows the 2nd through the 4th. So I'm saying between now and early next week, looking for a possible resumption of the rally. I don't have too much here as far as support, except we're near the area of the 618 retracement. And then as far as the March contract, go back to the left-hand side of the chart and grab some of these swings, even though it's not it's not the greatest data back there, but I am still going to use it. We do have support that we're on top of right here, right now. But again, I do not think that we've gotten the buy triggers off of it yet. Let's check. 30-minute chart? Hell no. 120-minute chart? Nope. So anyway, as far as here, we're also going to look for possible shorts, and the best area, well, the one I like the most right now is 255.92. So 255.92 to 256 even. Okay, so that's nice triple cluster that includes symmetry. We also have symmetry by itself, 256.40, and we have two levels here. Not an official setup, but two levels, and the 618 is pretty dang important. So watch these areas on the way up for possible resistance. Okay, I'm usually not too excited about either a single level or retracements like this, but if you have something that's near symmetry or a 618, I think it's pretty important. And then as far as IWM, we were looking for a possible 1272 extension on the downside at the 244.40 area off of this last high. We haven't seen it yet, but we're getting close to some support decisions. So I want you to keep an eye, especially on 243.55 to 245.09 area. And underneath that, 240.09 to 242.26. Okay, so those are some standouts in IWM. And as far as IWM on the 30-minute chart, now you can see we did have a crossover at the end of the day, but there's also, still a lot of resistance we would need to clear if this last low is any good. I didn't really have any major support down here, though. But we have important resistance at 249.24 to 42. Underneath, the support I'd look at is 247.09 to 247.48. Now, that would, stand for good support as long as we don't take out this high. If we make a new high in, the overnight session Sunday or something, well, then these levels will have to be changed. All right, let's take a look at some of these others. Not happy with Apple. I mean, Apple looked great this morning. It looked like, oh, hell, we're holding above symmetry support. Looks like we're going to, try and attack that extension on the upside, but then, it got ugly. But it's still okay to have the stops underneath here, but you've got to be prepared if we do get through this support by a decent margin, probably by more than $1. You have to be prepared for a much deeper downside correction, and you're not going to want to sit through it, okay? As far as, Apple on the 30-minute chart, I mean, there's going to be, this is in a sell mode at the moment. There are areas above the market that I look at for possible shorts, but there would be anywhere from that 273 to 275 area. As far as Amazon, failed at an extension. Many moves tend to terminate at extensions of prior swings, which is why you want to trail up your stops when you get to an extension. So if you did trail your stops, you'd be stopped out. Your new decision would be 223.23 to 224.09 as a decision. That's symmetry plus a 786 retracement. Amazon 30-minute chart, pretty ugly. They had a crossover to the downside. And the only thing I'd be interested in on here would be maybe a short around the 230 to 231.35 area. As far as Google's concerned, this setup is still valid. It's still holding up, and doesn't seem to be trading as bad as the others. But 337.73 is still a potential upside target for you. As far as Nvidia, I did have timing at this last high, and we haven't been able to take that out yet. So I'd say that we're still vulnerable to a bit more on the downside. And I don't have anything that great, just one symmetry projection. There's only two levels here. That's not an official setup. This is not an official setup. So I'm going to wait till we see something better, either on the 30-minute chart or on the daily chart, before getting excited about, a new position here. I mean, you might already be in it, but ideally, you probably don't want it to trade below 185.91. As far as Tesla is concerned, now I want to give you both the weekly and the daily on this, because there might be a few different levels. You can see more swings if you're looking at, some of the weekly stuff. So 427 to 30 is key, 421.23, 404 to 408 area underneath. That's what's showing up on the weekly chart. Write them down somewhere so you know, just in case, we have a smash down into it, and then you're prepared. As far as the area that I'm really interested in on the daily chart, let's see, this is going to probably be slightly different. There's one more level there, so I need to add that in. So this is 431.94. So let me edit this. 431.94. Big old cluster with symmetry and a 618 retracement. Underneath that, 417.96 to 433. Okay, those are the next two areas to look at for possible support, possible resumption of the rally. It is a setup, but it will not be a royal setup, which is the highest probability setup as far as I'm concerned, because we don't have all the averages on the right side. But, this might be good for a day trade decision. If we smash down in this area and you start seeing a shift on a 1 minute chart, you can take a trade. Just don't take it overnight unless it also triggers for a swing trade entry. As far as the 30-minute chart in Tesla, it's still bearish. Okay, we did cross back to the downside over here. We have not crossed back to the upside since. So you might want to wait for that to cross before getting excited about it. But if you want to look at the sell side, here are the areas to look at the moment. If we make a new low, these levels will have to all be recalculated for you. As far as gold, here I don't really have a setup until below the market, like the 42, 43 to 58 area. So I don't have anything that exciting there. And also know that we did have timing at this last high. And I wouldn't be surprised if we, saw a bit more of a correction. I don't know what it looks like as far as the Elliott wave stuff, but those guys may be able to help you with that. As far as the 120-minute chart, we failed a little bit after we went slightly through symmetry resistance, but I would typically look for an extension on the downside if this is going to hold, right? Let me get rid of some of this old stuff. And that would be here. But before that, there is a decision. And that decision is coming in, whoops, this here, high to low. Okay, so the one that stands out at the moment is 43.12.20. So let me get that in there, 43.12.20 to 43.14. And come on, where's the top end? 20. Okay, so we might even be close enough already to look at a trade against this support. But again, it's not a royal setup by any means. And, well, this is the 120-minute chart anyway, but it isn't on the daily chart because it looks like we're crossing, the 513 is crossing to the downside. So, yes, we have decisions, but not the best setup that you could find. As far as crude oil, we're still failing at that resistance, the 58.82 to 59 even area. I do have something that looks like a little bit of a zigzag between 56.13 to 56.41, but we didn't quite get there. Now I did go down to the 120-minute chart though, and on that time frame chart, we do have closer support. So, and symmetry by itself is a setup. So we are bouncing off of this area, but one of the things that you have to do, since we did have the cross to the downside, since you do have a pattern of lower lows and lower highs, is, I would watch right here to fail or not to fail. I'm going to make it easier to see. 57.42 to 47. Okay, but we basically have two symmetry projections and one 618 retracement. That would be a key decision. And that's pretty much it. Yeah, that's pretty much it. Anyway, Tammy should be back Monday, so I'll be back to my regular schedule. And sorry I was a little spaced out this morning because of my flight. I ended up, getting to sleep really late last night. Anyway, that's it. Have a great weekend, and see you next week.